Welcome back to the Raising Autistic Disciples podcast. My name is Larah Roberts, and I am so excited to have this conversation today with my friend Tiffany Long. Tiffany, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Hey, okay, sister, let's just start this podcast off just absolutely. You know what? Let's just peek behind the curtain. Let's be truly honest and vulnerable and tell those listening what we were just talking about. Can we do that?
Sure. Absolutely.
All right. So listen, this is a non-judgment zone. All right. But it's also a space where, you know what? Life is both comical and just reality of the life that you and I both live, which you'll tell about in a few minutes. We both have autistic kids, and we were just literally talking before we came on to press record that, you know what? We're having to be mindful as parents that our kids pick up on some things. And when you throw autism in the mix and they may not know exactly what a particular word means, they pick on it fast. And so not only do we have a lot of things to navigate, Tiffany, we have to be on the edge of our seat of what teachers may tell us that they said in class or what Sunday school teachers may say. So we were talking and I gave Tiffany the example about how I'm waiting for the day because as Graham gets older. And listen, this is sanctification on Colin part about the words that we use. You know, usually I'm just going to let this slip. Usually I'm a gosh, dog it type of, or you know, dadgummit slips up here and there. And you know, some other words, you know, like, you know, poop that starts with a C comes out. And so Tiffany, Graham picked up on that. And so now I'm waiting for the day where his teacher tells us, you know what, because, okay, let me back up. He came into our room, and what we were talking about for those listening is the 2 weeks of Christmas being home. And you know what, that's a long time to be together. Yeah. You know, and we're human and people get on my nerves. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just being open and honest. But Graham picked up on a word and he came into our room and we were just trying to retreat for a little bit. Like like just getting away from our three. I love them. I'm grateful for them. The Lord gave me kiddos and I'm so grateful, but they were just, you know, after 18 days, you know, being together. And Graham came into our room, Tiffany, and he just stopped and he put his hands on his waist and he's like, Mom and Dad, what the crap are y'all doing?
You can just see his attitude coming in.
Oh, the attitude was like, and so I'm waiting for the day where I'll have to apologize to his teacher, be like, sorry, that's on Mom and Dad. We will try to get better at our potty language. It's sanctification. We're asking the Lord to forgive us. We sat him down. We're like, Mommy, Daddy shouldn't say that word. We're so sorry. But anyway, but I told you that and you were definitely like, you're not alone. So thank you for making me feel like I'm not failing at parenting by, you know, our kids picking.
It's not the worst story out there. It's not.
So anyway, but that's awesome. Hey, Timmy, tell us about you, family, anything you got. Let's do this before you jump into family. What's something that you do that you just love? Like, is there a hobby or like something that you're interested in? Like, what do you love to do?
There's two things that I love to do. Well, this is not part of those two. Well, it's part of the two, but it's not one of the two. Audiobooks. I love audiobooks. I love reading, and I grew up reading book after book after book. But then with the mental toll that it takes with raising an autistic child, that kind of went out the window, but I missed books. So a friend of mine turned me on to all the different ways you can get books from libraries on audio and all that. And I am almost always listening to an audiobook.
Nice.
So along with listening to the audiobooks, there's two things that I do. One, I learned how to crochet a few years ago, and it's become one of my favorite things to do. Not blankets. I do blankets, but I hate them. They're so long. I don't have the patience for them. Yeah. It takes me about 2 to 3 years to finish a blanket. But I love making like little animals and things like that. It's called amigurumi, and often people be like, can you find this and make this for me? And that's my favorite part, is going and finding a pattern for something specific that someone's looking for. And then the joy on their face after they see it, like, this is just what I wanted. So that's one of my favorite things to do. Second favorite thing that I don't get to do a whole lot is color.
Oh.
And I have to share this story from Christmas. My husband got me an amazing set of markers. It comes in its own case and everything. I don't even know how many are in there. I think it's like 80 of them. And they come in a case. They're all numbered. And me and my lovely OCD is like, oh, I get to organize them all. And I went through Christmas Eve when I opened that one and organized all the numbers. And then the best thing of all, it came with a color code sheet where I color in each square to know exactly what the marker looks like. And I'm like, this is amazing. And my husband looks at me and he's just like, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm so happy. And he goes, I'm happy you're happy. Like, he did not understand it. But it's like, this thrills me so much.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, coloring, organized coloring,
I
and
love
crocheting
it.
are
I
two things
love
that I love to
it.
do the most.
So like, like the feeling of accomplishment, not only an accomplishment in the coloring, but like that, like it gave you instructions like piece by piece of what to do. And then you're like, I did it. I
Yeah.
love that.
I
I
love
love
the
that.
color by number.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
the color by number, so
Yeah.
there's no guesswork.
That's
I
right.
don't
Just tell
need
me what to
guesswork in
do.
my life.
Tell me what to do. Okay. Hey, I want to go back to the crocheting thing because I'm kind of, I haven't, I mean, it's when we're recording this is January 8th. So, we're almost to the point where you're like, if you haven't set goals, which I love goals, I love a new year, but that's another story. This one's not really inked in on my goal list, but something like it I wanted to do for years is like, okay, let's get away from screens. Let's get away from like thinking like all the lists we have to do. And so I did 2 years ago because I was just reminded it's sitting on my dresser when I was getting ready this morning is the wobbly
Oh,
the
yeah. I think it's called Wobbles. I think it is
wobbles.
called Wobbles. The package
Okay.
set?
Yes. Yes. Where
Yes.
like you can crochet. Is that crocheting?
Yes, it is. From what I haven't bought one because I already
Okay.
learned how to do it before
Right.
those
Right.
came out. But that is crochet and it should give you everything you need in the package to get started, except one-on-one instruction of how to get started.
Oh man, that's gonna be a bummer. But I think they have like YouTube videos where they like
Yeah,
do
that's
like step by step.
how I learned. Somebody taught me basics and then everything else I learned from YouTube.
Okay, that's what I was gonna ask you. Should I start there with like one of those little?
YouTube and start with basics, start
Mm-hmm.
with chaining, single crochet, and learn your stitches. And then
Mm-hmm.
once you learn stitches, then like I made washcloths, dishcloths for
Mm.
months
Yeah.
before I moved into anything bigger.
Yeah. Hey, not trying to jump into like serious off of this, but why is it important for us to find something like audiobooks, crocheting? What?
Life can weigh you down so much that if you don't find an escape, and I don't mean an escape like I'm leaving life, but for a minute reprieve, if
Mm-hmm.
you don't have something to escape into a reprieve, it will break you.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll get to a point where nothing matters. That's where depression spirals,
Mm-hmm.
anxiety spirals,
Mm-hmm.
working with your kiddo and the guilt of I want to help but I don't know how to help. Everything just spirals downward when you don't have a way to
Mm-hmm.
escape. And not all of us can get away for retreats, not all of us can do, couple things. Our son won't stay with anybody. So if we're
Mm-hmm.
doing anything, we're one-on-one going out to find like an overnight retreat or whatever, or we might get a couple hours during the day at some point where we might be able to get a date. But because it's not regular, we have to find ways to be able to calm ourselves, escape it all for a minute, and find that thing you love. It might be gardening, just getting outside, throwing earbuds on, listening to music or an audiobook or a podcast and getting out in the dirt. It might just be sitting on a swing for 10 minutes. If your
Mm-hmm.
kid has got a swing, take their swing for 10 minutes. They'll be fine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Enjoy it for 10 minutes where you just chill and you teach your children this is mommy's time
Mm-hmm.
and they will learn that's mommy's time. And now
Mm-hmm.
we're at the point where my son will come to me and when I'm frustrated and he knows I'm overwhelmed, he'll say, do you need to go to your room? Because he knows I need space. And I'll be like, you know what, Jackson, you're right. I do need to go to my room. Can mommy take 10 minutes? Yeah, that's fine. Because in those 10 minutes, he gets to do what he wants and he doesn't care that
Yeah.
mommy's not there. He's like, yeah, mom's gone. So,
Yeah.
our kiddos learn when we're frustrated and our frustration
Right.
never helps them. In fact, they
Right.
feed off of the frustration.
Yeah.
So finding that escape, something that you love, whatever it is, just to take some time weekly, if you can't do it daily,
Mm-hmm.
is a huge game changer for your mindset.
That's awesome. Yeah, and it's just something about doing something with your hands too.
Yeah.
And creating, we were, built and I mean, I know some of us have different personalities, but I for one, like, love creating from the ground up things, like seeing things. So yeah,
Yeah.
working with a hand. So cool. Thanks for sharing that, friend. Hey, so tell us about all things life, family, and the Long family.
Long family. So my husband and I have been married for, I believe it will be 17 years this year. Is it
Yeah,
17?
17. Us too.
Yep,
Yeah.
17 this year, 2009. And so Jackson came along a few years later, 2012. So he just turned 13. So yay for all things teenager coming about. And that's fun. Um, but I have been a stay-at-home mom since the beginning with him. I had wanted to do that before we knew about the autism. And then once we knew about the autism, it was a definite that I was going to stay home with him. Currently now, though, I am working part-time. Pediatric therapy of all things.
Nice.
But I am the back end of a local small business doing their insurance and billing, that kind
Cool.
of thing. But I just started that August, I think.
Okay.
So 5 months that I've been into it, but it just gives me, I know I have a sense of purpose with my child, but it gives me something that's mine as well.
Sure.
Like another thing where I feel like I'm accomplishing things. I'm giving back to, the community that has helped us for this whole time because Jackson's always been in therapy.
Mhm.
And I really enjoy the using my brain cells to figure out what's this mean, what's that mean, how do I work
Mhm.
through this, and because it's a new thing for the clinic, so we're all kind of learning at the same time, and I get so excited when one thing finally works out that I'm like, oh, we did it,
That's
and
right.
move on to the next thing, and that's bringing a lot of joy back to my life.
That's right.
That I've got something outside of Jackson to focus on.
That's right.
And that can be very hard for everyone.
Right.
Kids take up so much of our space that it can be
Mhm.
so hard to find who we are. Um,
Yes.
and I'll talk a little
Yes.
bit about this during our podcast, but I lost myself for so long that I had lost the joy of my life.
Mm.
Like, I
Mm.
had no joy. Like, yes, joy in my family, joy in God, joy from my kiddo, but I didn't really feel a true sense of I'm just at peace overall with where life is. I always felt like
Mhm.
something was missing. Um, but I also knew my duty was to my child, and that was okay. But I've learned now, 13 years into this, there can be a balance to both.
Mm.
So I don't
Mhm.
work a lot, 8 to 10 hours a week at most. That's on the higher end, so that I'm still spending a lot of time with my kiddo. Like I said, he's 13, hormones, not
Mhm.
wanting to do school. School's a struggle because we have him on homebound because traumatized in school. So my kid is with me 24/7.
Mhm.
So that's why when he told me last week he needed a break from me and was going to work with daddy, I was like, I get it.
That's right.
I
I get
get
it.
it.
That's it.
So, yeah. So it's just the three of us. We have some family in the area. There's some family that has not jumped on board with everything. So that makes it
Mm.
challenging. But God's always provided the right people at the right
Mhm.
time. Even if
Mhm.
those people have later on left our lives, He's always given us somebody as we walked through life.
Mhm.
So that's a little synopsis of me, I guess.
Absolutely. Well, I I'm just so grateful for you, friend, just coming on the podcast. Let me tell everybody, Tiffany and I met just what is it, Tiffany? Just I mean, Instagram. I mean, praise the Lord
I
for
saw a memory today or yesterday, I think yesterday on Facebook that it a year ago I was sharing something that I got from you and Kim Botto.
okay.
So I've known about you for about a year.
Nice. Well, happy anniversary.
Right?
I love it. I love it. Praise the Lord. Again, like I said at the beginning, I believe God's redeeming the internet for lots of reasons. One is friendship. I just texted somebody this morning and was like, I think God answers prayers, some prayers, through bringing new friends in our life.
Yeah.
And so praise God. I mean, you have been that for me. You're all also what we're going to talk about is you're a few steps ahead. And so I need, and I know the Lord does that. I know He orchestrates that. And so, yeah, just Tiffany and I met through Instagram, through Bible study now, Autism Moms Bible Study, and some other online things. So grateful for her and her friendship in that. And so, hey, tell us, when was Jackson diagnosed?
Jackson was diagnosed January 15th of 2000 and 16. He was 3
Okay.
years old. So
Okay.
that 10-year anniversary is
Wow.
coming up in next week, 7 days.
Gotcha. What made y'all pursue that?
He had some of the very characteristic, whatever you call them,
Mhm.
things of
Yep.
autism. He lined everything up.
Mhm.
He was not talking. He had words, but he was mainly nonverbal. And honestly, I thought he was fine. I thought it
Mhm.
was just speech. It'll be fine. And we
Mhm.
did get him into therapy for the speech side of things. And then my sister was over one day, and God love her. I know it was hard for her to say it, but I'm like, no, things are fine. And she goes, no, he's not okay, Tiffany. You
Mhm.
need to get him checked out. And I was like,
Mm.
no, he's fine. You cannot be saying that to me. And then she left. And then I thought
Mhm.
about it more and I went,
Mhm.
oh my goodness. And so I talked to a speech therapist, and I said, this is what I'm hearing. What do you think? And she
Mm.
said, I think you need to get him tested. I
Mm.
can't give you that information,
Mhm.
but you need to get him tested.
Right.
So we went where she recommended. It was actually an Autism Institute in Atlanta, which is about 2.5 hours from me. And man, God worked it out because it should have been a year-long wait. And we were in with a diagnosis in 2 months' time.
Mm.
And so we were in 2 months, and then a month later we had the final appointments that they diagnosed her with autism.
Mhm.
So we pursued it because other people pointed it out, because we don't want to think anything's going on with your kiddo. We don't want
Mm.
to, we see it, but we don't want to see it.
Mhm.
But I remember the day I came home and I saw every single car and truck that he had lined up across our living room,
Mhm.
from largest to smallest, in a perfect arc. And I went, oh, we're in trouble. Like,
Mhm.
I just knew. And I went in the kitchen and I said, looked at my husband. I said, please tell me you did this. And he goes, did what? And I said, have you not seen it? He said, no. I pulled him to the living room and showed him. He goes, oh, that's cool. And I'm thinking, it's cool, but that's not a good cool at the moment. So
Yeah.
that's why we pursued it, was because people were saying things like family, in a loving way, saying things, and I started noticing things. So we said, okay, let's figure this out. And
Mhm.
January of 2016, we got the diagnosis.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, looking back, those moments where you said, it just from what how you were describing it, were you scared?
Yeah, because I knew enough about autism to know that it made your kid different.
Mm. And that's that mama instinct of like,
Yeah,
it's not even though, going down the path you don't know much about yet, it's not technically when you're faced with a diagnosis like that, because we can see our kid, he's not, oh, how do I say this in the right words? It's not life or death.
right.
But it's more like what you do knowledge of it. It is like, oh, he's not going to be the same, and so it's that mama care of wanting to protect from that. So I totally get that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, it just made it where you knew there was going to be a whole lot of challenges for
Mm-hmm.
him and for you. You knew everything that you thought about life was going to change, but you didn't know what those changes would be because you
Mm,
absolutely don't know.
that's right.
And that is so scary because we all like order and plans and
Mm-hmm.
things to go in our
Mm-hmm.
plans. But
Mm-hmm.
as our friend Sandra Peoples says all the time, our plan B is still God's plan A.
That's right. That's right.
And took me a long time to see that, though.
That's right.
And I think it's very easy to get lost in all the things you need to do or feel you need to do in the beginning. And if I was to say one thing to a person with a new diagnosis, is as much as you can, stop the noise and remember your child is still your child.
Mm,
That all these things they're saying you have to hurry up and get your child into, you don't need to hurry up and get your child into. Remember who your child is first.
mm,
Thank God for your child and ask God for direction. What's one step that I can take instead of 10? Because I
mhm,
had my very first panic attack 3 days after his diagnosis. because they said, you have to do all these things, and those resources are not in my area. And there was no way for me to do them. And I thought my child was never going to become a functional, healthy adult because I didn't have all these services for him and I couldn't get him in fast enough. And I had my first panic attack, and I met somebody online and found out she was in the same area, and we met the following week, and she said, breathe. Breathe, because you can't do all the things. And thank God she was a Christian too, and she said, God's got you, God's got your kiddo. Breathe and just do one thing at a time and do what you can for your child. And I remember that to this day, and that's what I would tell anybody who first diagnosed is newly diagnosed. It's going to bring stress. I'm not going to tell you not stress because it's going to bring it. Give it to God. As much as you are able, as much as you are able to release that control, because more release comes over time.
That's
it's
right.
very hard to surrender it because it's your kid, and you know you're supposed to take care of your kid. That's why God gave you this kid. So surrender what you can in the moment and leave it and go, God, as other things come, please help me to surrender them. But in this moment, I'm going to remember who my child is, love my child, meet my child where they're at, and move one step at a time as you lead. Because you have to take time to grieve. If you don't take time to grieve, it will hit you like a freight train later on. How do I know? Because that's what happened to me. It will hit you later on. Make sure your family is processing it. Your husband, or if you're a husband, your wife. Like, make sure your spouse is processing it. My husband took so much longer to process it, and I had no idea because we never talked about it. And I'm ready to move forward, and he's like, I'm not there yet. I can't do this. And I'm like, oh, okay, we got to take a step back because the two of us are not on the same page here. Focus on what you can focus immediately around you and leave the rest in God's hands. God will provide what is needed for your kiddo. He's never left my son out in the cold to not have what he needed. But we have to just stop and breathe first and go straight to God to say, hey, you've got to hold this because I can't.
That's right. Oh, that's such great advice, and kind and loving. And just breathe. Just breathe. Yeah. And so, I mean, that's what I do write about. I can't remember if this the volume 1 of Letters to Lindsay, or if it's, I'm working on volume 2, so it may be volume 2. But why margin is so necessary. And it's exactly what you're just saying. Like, if you don't create margin, both in your schedule and in your space and in your mind, especially at the right after receiving the piece of paper, like, yeah, that I say the same thing and totally agree. It's create margin so that you can breathe. Yeah. If you immediately jump into adding this and adding that you don't, first off, you got to learn what autism is. Like, you got to understand that so that you can know your kid better. Because again, as I was listening to you, like, that's all we're after in the first few days, first few, months, years, is I just want to know my kid. Yeah. I want to know. I know my neurotypical daughter. I was able to know this and know that, and she was able to communicate. So that's what we're after as parents. It's just how we're designed is we want to know, right? And so if we don't have margin to do that, you don't have margin to think. Yeah. And so, great sister. So kind of pivoting a little bit, because I want to learn from you both as you're a few steps ahead of me, because, we're 2 years, 1 year, 2 years away from middle school age, 13. Oh, I kind of don't even want to think about it. But, but there is also, there is also an aspect of, like, if you are parenting a kid with a disability, autism, you got to be thinking 2 years out.
Yeah.
And so I do want to learn from you in that aspect. And there's many DMs that I get about middle school boys age, and just fill in the blank on all the things, and we have to navigate when it comes to that. So that's probably a whole nother podcast. But as far as teach us something, sister, on what the Lord has taught you, just like in this last season. Now, there's tons of questions I have for you on, like, okay, and now that we know a little bit about diagnosis and things, but in this season, for the parent that's listening that does have a teenage child, autistic teenage child, what is the Lord teaching you now? as a person, let me take a let me preface here for a second. There's a lot of conversations that I have, and we're gonna. This is the Raising Autistic Disciples podcast, and we wanna talk about autism. We wanna talk about. There's a certain time where I go, okay, time out for a minute. Larah is a person too, just like you were talking about career. Larah has aspirations career wise that have nothing like are we mindful of what God's given us in the assignment of being a shepherd and a parent to our children? Yes. But sometimes I kind of just want to talk about this is not selfish. This is just like I do have a life outside of all things autism. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me what, as Tiffany, what is the Lord, what's he doing? What's he teaching you?
So I guess 13 is a huge change, right? And we knew it was coming. Along with him turning 13 last year, I turned 40 last year.
Oh,
so
boy.
We kind of hit both. Two big milestones at one shot.
Yes.
Like, great stuff. So, 40 is, the year of change. God shows you so many things. And he began on working on some things with me before I actually turned 40. I turned 40 in the middle of the year. So there's pre-40 of 2025 and there's after 40.
That's going to be me this year. That's going to be me.
Yeah. You're going to have two parts.
Yeah. I'm in pre right now. So give me everything you got.
So listen in pre, because then post is better.
Okay.
Now. But pre 40 was, we went through a challenging time at the beginning of the year, had to process, some church hurt, some friends walking away, over what I would probably say was, a lack of communication, despite sides trying to communicate, not being able to articulate well or whatever. No, there is some things that happen that you could place fault at, but I'm not looking back as who was at fault. I'm looking back at this situation was one of the worst situations I have ever been through. And I am a former pastor's daughter.
Okay.
So when I say this is one of the worst situations, this includes situations that I went through as a pastor's daughter that laymen of the church won't go through because of how situations work out and where things are placed on the leadership of the church and their families. So I've gone through a lot of stuff in my life, being the pastor's daughter, and we at the time were very legalistic upbringing. And so that formulates a lot of preconceived ideas about how life and everything should be, including with your autistic child. And I took all of that, and that's how I was living life. Here and there, it'd be like, oh, I think that's too rigid. I don't think that's right for our family, and pray about it. God would give me direction, little things here and there. But overall, I still kind of had that mindset of, I have to go to church and do all these things because I'm supposed to. And after all of this happened, it was January, February of last year. After all this happened, we then were not connected with the church for a while. There is another church in town that we are connected with that I started doing Bible study with. We'd previously attended, but there's no special needs ministry. There's only a couple in the church that even have a disability. But the one difference is they love. They love unconditionally and always have. So I was doing the women's Bible study, which was what I needed in that season, because with other issues with Jackson and auditory things and trauma and stress, he couldn't even attend church anymore. He was at that point where he couldn't even be in the building. And it frustrated me so much because I'm like, but church is such a big part of my life. Church was where I found my identity. You can probably see where I'm going to be going with this. But church was my identity because I was in it from birth till really last year. There had been times where we had to step away for Jackson's sake, but we always came back after a couple months. This was an entirely different situation. And I was like, I don't know how to live life without church there. Church is supposed to be my support group. Church is supposed to be who I go to when there's a struggle. Church is supposed to be all these things for me. And what God began to show me was I was going to church for the wrong reasons. I
Yeah.
wasn't going to church to worship him. I
Mm.
was going to be seen by
Mm.
everybody else. I used to, was former pastor's daughter. People always saw me. I was
Mm.
always front and center. Um, I sing. That's a little unknown fact about me, but I sing. And in just about in every church we've been in, I've either been part of their choir or praise team and done specials and things like that. People would see me.
Mhm.
Something happens with Jackson. I have to. I'm using air quotes here, but I feel I have to share with people so they know what's going on,
Mhm.
so that they know what's happening in my life and can step in when I'm like, hey, I need help, which doesn't happen
Mhm.
often. But if I did, they have to know. I always
Mhm.
felt that I had to be seen
Mm.
because I felt like I wasn't being seen when working with my kiddo.
Mm.
Because who sees that?
Mhm.
Nobody except my kid. And my kid's like, I don't want to do the work with you.
Mhm.
So I feel like I needed to be seen, and church was my way to be seen. And God said, it's not about you being seen, it's about letting me orchestrate what's needed in your life.
Mm.
And church is about worshiping me. So I need you to just worship me. I had to take church out of the equation because
Mm.
all summer long, no Bible study.
Mm.
So where am I finding my connection? That would be with my daily time with Jesus.
Mhm.
That's where I'm going to find my connection.
Mhm.
And he just began to work in my heart to where I was like, what's missing that I'm not enjoying seeking this connection with Jesus?
Mm.
And that's where I began to learn at the basis of everything. Like I told you, this church that I was doing the Bible study with, they love.
Mm.
At the basis of everything is love.
Mhm.
Jesus love, most
Mhm.
importantly. And I thought, am I focused on that love? Or am I focused on all the other things I think people are thinking about me or perceiving about me that I want to make sure is actually right?
Mhm.
Because the situation that happened at the beginning of the year was there were wrong perceptions of me and my family, despite me doing everything to make sure that didn't happen.
Mhm.
And God said, look what happened. All in your effort, look what still happened. The very thing you were
Mhm.
trying not to happen did happen.
Mm.
And I had to sit back and go, there's literally, you'd think at, by 40, I would know this. There's literally not much in my control.
Mhm.
It's not. And I just thought, okay, I needed that to happen in order to take me out of the thing I felt secure in that actually wasn't what was secure.
Mhm.
So post 40 now, 6 months, even revelations just this past week, being able to look back at all of that, I began to dig deep into just sitting with Jesus.
Mhm.
And I get stuck on like streaks, like, ooh, I've been in the Bible app for 160 days. I've got to keep this streak going. Well, it's not the streak that's important. It's what I'm getting out of being in the word that's important. And
Mhm.
that hit me like, why am I so concerned about this streak? Because there was a day where it was just rough. It was just a couple weeks ago, and I just remember it was rough, and I couldn't wrap my head around sitting and reading anything. I just put on worship music.
Mhm.
That was my way to connect for the day. And what happened? It broke my streak. And I went, you
Mm.
know what? Who cares about the streak?
Mm.
I did what my soul needed and what I felt God was leading me to in that moment.
Mm.
That now it's okay, let me take this moment to center myself. So, told
Mhm.
you breathe in the beginning. You got to breathe now too. You've got to
Mhm.
take time to breathe. But 10 years in, it's easier for me to create that margin and create a little bit more margin. One resource that I will give because I use it all the time is called the Pause app by John Elway.
Mhm.
And he has really helped me focus on his new book, Experiencing Jesus, really, is amazing because it's how do I experience Jesus? Not all the things that have a little bit of Jesus in them. How do I experience Jesus?
Mm-hmm.
And the pause app gives you different pauses from 1 minute to 10 minutes. You can choose different voices. You can choose different things, but you can take anywhere from 1 minute to 10 minutes to breathe. And so I think it's every January 1st, they do a challenge of, can you do 2 pauses a day? Can you take time to stop twice a day to breathe, center yourself back with Jesus? And it almost seems redundant because it might be the same prayer over and over, but I've stopped looking at it as redundant and looking at it as a habit that I
Mm-hmm.
am creating to make sure I am stopping, to make sure my mind is focused on Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I do that morning as soon as I wake up. My phone is by my bed. Yes, people, my phone's not outside of the room at night. It is by my bed. But the first thing I open is the pause app.
Mm-hmm.
And I typically my morning is a 10-minute pause. And it
Mm-hmm.
focuses my mind for the day on Jesus. What's something, there's healing, guidance, and worship, and those are usually one of the 10-minute ones. And I'll pick either healing if there's something that I was dealing with the day before that I need to process, or I'll pick guidance. And that's typically what I pick is, okay, God, what do I need to let go of that's out of my control for today? And how do I live my day for you, knowing this stuff is coming up, and I'm gonna let you give me the answer on that. But what's the one thing I can focus on for today?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you, it's amazing how fast God can work, because even
Mm-hmm.
just yesterday, there was a chat I needed to have with my husband, and I didn't know how to
Mm-hmm.
have it or how to say it without him getting upset. And so that morning, it was, okay, God, this is bothering me. Help me to love him well while you figure out the time and the way that we're supposed to talk, because
Mm-hmm.
I know you'll do it when the time is right. Guess when it happened? Last night after we went to bed. And I was like, this morning, I was like, thank you, Jesus. You
That's
answered
right.
that one. Moving on to the next.
That's right.
And it was just a great conversation, and better than I could have hoped for it to go, because I let God be in control when it happened, rather than texting him being like, hey, we need to chat when you get home from work, or
Mm-hmm.
walking in the door from work. Hey, we need to talk about something. Because immediately his back's going to be up, defensive. The
Mm-hmm.
conversation's not going to go well.
Mm-hmm.
So I always do that in the morning and then at night. The night one changes depending on how bedtime routine has gone. It might be 5 minutes, it might be 10. But I always try and take the time. I am making sure I take the time to pause and
Mm-hmm.
bring myself back. Okay, God, I'm going to let go of what happened today. Whatever
Mm-hmm.
conversations I have, I'm not going to ruminate on them all night long.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to think about, how do I fix this situation? Okay, that work thing needs to be left in the work room, and I'll deal with that tomorrow when I open my computer back up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, having to separate of, this is my time to focus on Jesus and my relationship with him. And what I'm learning, and kind of like the big takeaway from all this, is we talked earlier a little bit about seasons. And I would say every season is going to be different. When Jackson was younger and we were in the throes of 5 days a week of therapy, there was not a lot of margin for some of the stuff that I have now to be able to
Mm-hmm.
do that pause and then still take time for Bible study, um, kind of thing. So in your season, number one, focus on Jesus
Mm-hmm.
and let him direct you on, is that the pause app and I do a 1 minute pause, or is it, I need to read this one Bible verse, or
Mm-hmm.
listen to this one chapter while I'm doing this thing for my kiddo, or washing the dishes, or this and that? What's one thing that I can focus on that is bringing me directly to you, to
Mm-hmm.
cancel out all the other noise, so that when I step out of it, I can go in with a better understanding, or a better attitude, or a sense of peace, knowing this one thing is what I'm supposed to be working on, because I've already connected with Jesus first. And it has just become where I literally told my husband last night, I am finding joy again.
Mm.
in my life. And it's not because of the job. It's not because of where my child is at in his life. It's not because of my coloring and my markers. It is because I'm able to look at Jesus now and go, you know what? There's nothing I can do about that situation. God, I'm going to give it to you. What's one step I can take for that situation right now? As an example, we found out my husband didn't fill out his W-4 correctly, so taxes weren't taken out the way we would have liked them to be taken out. And he calls me, angry, frustrated, all the things. And while I'm on the phone with him, I'm crying because our tax return is kind of how we do things for the rest of the year. And I'm just crying, going, okay, God, like, how can this money all be gone? This and that. Like, again, didn't have big picture, had small picture, right? And I'm crying and like, I don't know what to do. We need to find a tax accountant because we don't usually typically have one. What do we do? Get off the phone with him. And I posted one thing on Facebook and I said, we need a tax accountant ASAP. Like, I need to find someone who can walk me through this to know what happened and what we need to change for this year. And I told him, I said, there's nothing we can do about last year. We need to change whatever we can for this year, but we obviously have time. We're in January. So I knew my first step was, can I get in touch with someone and maybe have a free consultation just to find out what we can do? Somebody commented and said, I think you need to find a tax attorney. And I said, I'm going to start with this one step that I know I can start with. And I'm going to leave it at that. And typically, I react to things like, oh no, this is a mess. Okay, now I'm going to have to work 20 plus hours a week to try and make enough money to cover what we might need, this and that, trying to figure all the things
Your
out.
mind just goes like, it begins to go from like, it goes to 90 to nothing real quick.
Yeah. And so that's typically what I do.
Yeah.
But this time around, I just sat and instead of reacting, I responded of, okay, how are we going to handle this? Okay, God's going to figure it out, because finding out how much my husband actually made was a whole lot less than I thought we were making, but yet we never lacked for anything. My child never went without anything. We didn't go without anything. We have our home. We have a car. Like, we're okay. God's always provided. And so I just stopped and said, okay, God, you've taken care of it before. You're going to do it again.
That's
we
right.
may not be able to do all the things we planned, but you've got a different plan.
That's right.
So I just left it in his hands. And I could have started calling the tax places and all that and trying to figure things out. They were supposed to call me back saying that I didn't hear from them for a whole day. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to call them, because that's me forcing it rather than letting God work. And during that day, 24 hours, Larah, 24 hours is all it was between that phone call where God's like, let me show you some things. I haven't shared the situation with many people, but one person she's like my Nathan in the Bible, Nathan David, she's my Nathan. And she tells me what I need to hear.
That's
and
right.
So I was kind of sharing it with her, not really complaining, but just sharing, like, it's frustrating and we've got to, how, what are we going to do? And she goes, well, think about it this way. Those taxes that weren't taken out helped you meet your needs through that time, because that's what you needed more. So that you weren't short at the end of each paycheck. And I was like, because I was looking at it like, oh my goodness, now our check is going to be shorter because it's going to be taken out. But yet at the same time, we actually lived off of that, and we needed that to live off of. And God showed me something else. My husband actually worked 2 jobs last year. He changed in the middle of the year. The previous job did take out taxes. And I was like, oh, that might be our saving grace right there. That might be what God's like, you were okay to have taxes taken out with this job, but you needed that money in this job so that you made it every week. And just that shift in perspective, that by the time the tax lady called me back, I was like, okay, so how do we change our W-4 so that it's better going forward? And she gave me that information. I didn't have to make a trip into any office, find any paperwork, nothing. It was, this is why that happened, so that now I understand. And it wasn't actually something that was wrong. It was just the way we filled out our W-4. And I'm like, okay, so this is what we changed for this year. This is the answer God gave me for this year. we'll figure out what happens later with a text time. Whatever happens, God will figure out the money side of it to get us through whatever we're going to need.
Yeah.
And typically, I would have been panicking like crazy and anxiety attacks. But that little shift, and I call it little, but it's really not a little shift.
It's reframing. It's reframing
It
your mind.
is. It's an entire 180 of rather than reacting, I'm going to respond by, okay, Jesus, you first.
That's right. That's right.
Coming to you first. And just, I hate that it took me until 40 to really learn this.
Yeah.
Because I look back on some things and be like, that probably could have been a whole lot easier if I had learned this back then.
That's right. Yeah.
But there was something else in that moment that I needed to learn. This is what I need to learn now.
That's right.
And so for me, it's becoming not stressing about all the things with Jackson. It's, okay, what's most pressing right now with Jackson? What's one thing? We're working on some auditory processing issues. So what's one step? Okay, get the referral from the doctor. Okay, where's the one place we know we can take him that takes his insurance? Okay, send it there. Wait on them to call me. I'm not calling them. I'm going to wait on them to call me the appointment. The right timing will happen when it's supposed to happen. And I'm literally not stressing about it. And it sounds like I'm kind of bragging about it, but I'm not stressing because I know God's going to make it happen in the right time.
That's right. That's right.
And I know that if the whole situation last year had not happened, I would not be sitting here today being able to share this with you today. Because I still would have been so wrapped up in, I've got to make sure everything looks good for this church or these people or showing who I'm supposed to be or who I think I am, rather than coming back to focus on what Jesus thinks of me, what he wants for me. And going back to that, I mentioned in the beginning, Jesus' love. Because when I can focus on his love, yes, I'm still healing from that hurt, but I can look back at all that and I can pray for them and go, Jesus, you work in the situation. You've taken me out of it. So it's up to you to work in it so that families behind me have a different experience.
That's right.
Or, praying for individuals, for the churches, but then broadening that to, okay, who are you wanting me to influence right now? And there's a friend of mine, she's not a Christian, and she often says the universe of things and rather than God. And I will always say God. And she knows I do. And she puts it in there. She sent me a text the other day and put universe/God. And I went, okay, God. Like, this is my mission field right now. It's just loving her the way Jesus would want me to love her. No judgment. No, well, you should be saying that. No, just accepting what she's dealing with right now and serving her the way God tells me to right now. Serving my family the way that he's telling me to. Even this job that I have now, how am I serving them well? And it all comes back to, okay, God, what's the one thing that you want me to do in this situation? And when you're that focused and you've got only one thing to deal with, it takes a lot of the pressure off because it's no longer all the things.
That's right.
One.
Yeah.
It's just one.
Yeah. Yeah. Gosh, thank you for sharing that. Let me insert something, not really insert because you covered so much and so well, because the Lord's actually teaching me some of the same thing, is that we're conditioned to move ahead of him. Like we're so wanting instant gratification, answers right now, nervous energy when it doesn't happen, all that we run. I often say, or not just say, like it's literally a prayer almost. It's every day. Lord, don't let my speech outpace my sanctification. And that's just because I have a problem with my tongue and I have a problem with my thumb and texting. And so, Lord, don't let me run ahead of what you're trying to teach me through my speech. But it can be applied in all areas, because here's the thing, Tiffany, what I'm learning based on like in this season of my life, but also it applies so well to what you just taught us, is that, okay, well, let me do it this way. Let me ask you questions. And I'll kind of come back to what that. Do you believe? Because every situation, I'm kind of going in circles, but let me frame it this way: every situation, I am learning to go. What does this situation reveal about God?
Yeah.
What does this moment teach me about his character and what he's doing? Okay.
Yeah.
Keyword doing. Okay.
Right.
So, question number 1, do you believe God stops being God?
No.
Okay. So, if God doesn't stop being God, then do you believe he's always active?
Yes.
Okay. Because scripture tells us he is always active. So, therefore, God is never not working.
Right. Yeah.
So, if God is never not working, but yet we are conditioned because of flesh and because, we're even as believers in Jesus, like we're becoming daily like him. That's what sanctification means. So if God is always working, but yet we're trying to run ahead of him, what we're just counteracting what he's like. We're never going to get in the way of him working. But
Right.
what if we spent our day going, God, I want to watch you work?
Yeah.
And that's what you were doing by saying, you know what? It may take 24 hours. It may take 24 days. It may take 2 years. But you know what? I'm going to sit back. I'm going to spend seasons, in desperate prayer, but also just a prayerful attitude every single day, getting in God's word. How can I know him better than I knew him the day before? And God, this is important to me. This, name it. Whatever prayer, this is important to me. I know it's important to you. Church attendance, getting to know my kid, you name it. We've got all the list, right? So I'm not going to run ahead of you. I am going to sit back and I'm going to watch you work because I believe you never are not working. You're
Right.
always orchestrating everything for what,
Yeah.
Tiffany?
Yeah.
For your glory and my good.
It's almost like we try to put up roadblocks
Oh,
for him
totally.
of, this is the path that I want, so I'm going to throw this roadblock up on what you're doing over there,
That's right.
and so that you might come over to my path that I'm working
Uh-huh.
on. And he's like, okay, I can, squash this little roadblock. I'm going to throw you a roadblock because you need to be jumping back on my path
That's right.
and following behind what I'm doing rather than trying to create your own. And it's like we're on the hamster wheel, exhausting ourselves because we keep running into this roadblock that God's put in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
And all we have to do is go back to his path because he's already got for us what's best for us. Even though we may not like it, even though we may not understand it, he's still making that path for us. It's just a matter of us going, okay, God, I surrender. I surrender it to you. I get off of my throne and I give it to you because it's already yours. I accepted you as Christ into my heart. My heart is already yours. My life is already yours. I need to get off the throne because I already gave it to you. And as soon as you do that and you see him sitting in that throne and see what he's already done for you, it makes you want to sit back and go, I don't want to be in charge.
That's right.
Now it tends to still come up where it'll, be a thought of, oh, I need to do X, Y, Z. But when you take that time to pause, that's when I don't need to rush ahead. Because I'm going to take this time to look back and God already had this here. So I know he's going to have this there.
That's right.
And just let him, gosh, if we just let him do his thing, man, life is just so much.
It's so freeing. It's so freeing that being in control is not all it's cracked up to be, but when we truly understand and meditate on what scripture talks about walking in step with the Spirit, it is a far better lane to be in that lane than to be in the one Larah Roberts thinks is the right way to go.
Amen. Yeah.
Right. And so, oh, sister, man, I feel like we could talk for days, but that right there, I'm going to need to marinate a little bit. So thank you, for just, you're a few steps ahead, and I'm grateful for you and your friendship and your encouragement. What's one last thing that you would just say, hey, autism mom or dad, anybody really, what's the one last thing you want to leave with them?
If you're going to take anything away from today, take away the importance of bringing it all back to God. It's not going to take all your stressors away immediately. Things aren't going to be just hunky-dory. If your child's nonverbal, they're not going to suddenly be talking. It's not all the situations are fixed. It's the posture of your heart. And if you come back to, okay, God, I'm going to take this time to make sure you're first and focus on one thing that you want me to focus on. and not overwhelming yourself by trying to do all the things. First, focus on God. Number one thing, always come back to focusing on God. He will direct you on what's something you need to focus on outside of that. My prayer is always, what's the one thing for Jackson? What's one thing for me? I love my husband, but currently he's on his own. It's kind of like, hey, you do your thing with him, because I've got my hands full with what's happening here, what's happening there. Now, my marriage is, different from that, but that might be the one thing for me of, I need to be doing this with the marriage. But what's one thing I need to focus on? What's one thing for my son? And the rest is the rest. The rest is untouched until God says, okay, pick this up. Now, yes, I have a job, and yes, that I do have to work hours, but he has put me in an amazing position with an amazing boss that I can say, I'm not able to work today. I'll get to something tomorrow. Okay, that's fine. Like, it's not a have to clock in kind of job. And I'm thankful for that. So in some situations, it might be what's one work thing. You might have to add that to it. But always come back to God first, one step that I can take today, one thing to focus on. And if it's something I need to wait on it. There's nothing I can do about getting Jackson into this doctor's appointment. I just need to wait. So right now, there's not really a focus for Jackson. It's a focus for me. And that frees you up to go, okay, God, I'm going to watch you work.
That's right.
And that's what you want to focus on, is watching him work, not you work.
That's right. That's right. Oh, end on that one right there. Yes. Yes, absolutely. Well, friend, thanks so much for just your wisdom and encouragement and pouring into us today. Appreciate you being on the podcast.
Thank you for inviting me. I will say that this is probably the one passion that I'm not able to get into right now, is being able to support families. And I try to encourage wherever I can, no matter the platform. And I am grateful that you had me on to be able to share with other moms and hopefully give them some encouragement along the way.
That's it. You have, sister, you have. Well, for those of you listening, thank you so much for joining us for this conversation on the Raising Autistic Disciples podcast. Hey, more to come, but grateful for Tiffany and just her lived experience and her journey with the Lord of just encouraging us today. Thank you so much for listening to Raising Autistic Disciples podcast. Have a great day.